Hello YouTube. So my previous video got cut off because I reached the time limit. I was discussing the Madison, Wisconsin and global uprisings. As I was saying, it's good that people are resisting, and as long as the elites, the wealthy, those that have power in our society continue to prioritize military spending and corporate profit above the working class and above those things that benefit society, not in an instrumentalist, mechanistic, utilitarian sense, but in a human sense, will continue to suffer as a result of the economic crisis. They'll just pass the costs off to the citizenry at large, as opposed to absorbing them into the people that instigate and perpetuate the crisis, and those who don't, who would not suffer from, in any fundamental sense, from a cut to their paycheck, still refuse to institute that very cut and instead pass it off to the citizenry at large. So we have a positive thing, the resistance is positive, but the conditions that instigated said resistance are negative and are indicative of a highly unhealthy, unjust situation in our world. So to the extent to which these uprisings, these revolutions, these protests can undermine the status quo, can undermine the existing unjust system, and either make it more just or ideally do away with it in its entirety, is the extent to which they end up being ultimately positive. Whereas the extent to which they simply give people the illusion that they're making a difference and give people an outlet for their emotions, their anger, their frustration, while actually simply doing nothing to alter the status quo, or allowing the status quo to perpetuate itself in an even worse sense, by justifying harsh crackdowns, or simply just by the mere fact that if these protests accomplish nothing, if they can't undermine the current system or stave off the passage of these laws, then the system will worsen, because these, things such as union cuts, I'm talking about Madison, Wisconsin specifically, things like stripping collective bargaining rights, these are negative issues. These are things that worsen the status quo, as bad as it is already. So these are situations in which, if the revolutions don't succeed in pushing back the tide will move forward even from where it was prior. This is an assault by the elite on the people, and it will either be pushed back or it will go forward. It seems that it will not stand neutral. It seems that it will not stand in place. The status quo will either worsen or it will improve, and that's what happens in situations of crises. Both elites and the common man, per se, to put it again in those dialectical terms, can leverage the situation, can take advantage of the crisis to institute, to push the world closer to a world that they want to see. So we'll hope the good guys win. As in terms of as it applies to the Middle East situation, a number of things could happen in, say, Cairo, in Yemen, in Bahrain, in Tunisia. Piecemeal reforms. In the case of Cairo, the dictatorship could become more repressive, and things could be as bad or worse than they were under Mubarak. Or if the people don't stand for that and are able to resist, there could be fundamental positive changes, moves towards democracy, or ideally moves towards self-sufficiency, but I know that's a pipe dream at this point. So yeah, it all remains to be seen, really. Now I want to talk briefly about Julian Assange. I haven't heard too much about him lately, but the latest I heard is that he was extradited, or no, not that he was extradited. don't misunderstand. He was not extradited, but the UK did rule that he is to be extradited. So there's a series of appeals that can go underway, and I think this is still weeks away in terms of what if he actually is extradited. So there's a little while for hope and for campaigns of resistance, but the court did rule that he is to be extradited to Sweden, and the fear, of course, is that from Sweden he could be extradited to the United States, where he could face the death penalty or, a series of horrors not unlike that which Bradley Manning has already been subjected to for the past 7 months in solitary confinement, being made to strip naked, etc., etc., by these thugs in our government, in the government, not my government, the government, an entity, an abstract entity that has no relation to me, that does not serve my needs or those of my loved ones, does not benefit me, etc. But yeah, with that digression, you'd think that because Assange is so high profile, he wouldn't face the death penalty, but you never know with these guys. They're trying to make a statement that we can't have dissent. We can't have dissent in the United States of America anymore. You can't be a journalist. Never mind that what Assange did is what mainstream newspapers in the United States do all the time. They get classified documents from another source, and then they simply publish those classified documents. That's what it is to be a journalist, as Glenn Greenwald of Salon.com says. That's the very essence of journalism, and it's being criminalized by these fucking scumbags who, for lack of a more eloquent phrasing, who simply don't want to see their secrets being exposed. The notion that a government that has murdered 1 million Iraqis, the notion that a government that is setting up a police state control grid in the United States, the notion that a government that is waging a perpetual war on terror, the notion that a government that cares not for its citizenry, it is somehow has the right to privacy is asinine. People have the right to privacy. Large institutions with a monopoly on the use of force do not have a right to privacy. And of course, as the point has been made, if you're going to prosecute Assange, prosecute the New York Times, prosecute Times Magazine, prosecute Newsweek, prosecute all these organizations that have leaked classified documents. It's what journalists do, and they do it all the time. It's just that Assange is pioneering this new mold of more decentralized, and not that WikiLeaks is non-hierarchical, but it's more decentralized than the mainstream media, and it's more open to individuals. It offers an example for individuals who want to expose government secrets to be able to do so. It provides them and people who have significant problem with the government from inside the government or from out. It provides them with a forum to publish these awful wrongdoings and other corruption that the government is responsible for. And this individualistic, somewhat decentralized, kind of rebel-esque, activist, independent model is what the government fears, because it poses a threat to their monopoly on information, and it simply poses a threat to their operations, because when their secrets are exposed, they are less able to continue engaging in the awful things they're engaging in without the because they face potential outrage and resistance from the citizenry. So we'll hope everything goes okay with Assange. We'll hope that the appeals are successful and that he's not extradited. But we're living in the age of Orwell, where journalists face extradition and and imprisonment and etc., where people who leak government secrets face time in prison and torture and etc., whereas the governments themselves, the largest mass murderers on the planet in the White House, are completely immune from prosecution. They carry out their atrocities with impunity, as do the corporate executives who murder the environment for profit. Yeah, we live in a twisted world. We live in a world in which the less humane you are, oftentimes, now this is a generalization, but it's oftentimes true, it's typically true, we live in a world where the least humane individuals gain the most power and influence over society. Cutthroat, competition, consumeristic. Yeah. That was a fragment, but you understand what I mean there. So, I may follow this up with another video. I want to discuss, what do I want to discuss? I want to discuss spontaneity and routine, the imprisoning nature of routine, the imprisoning nature of familiarity, how paralyzing our familiar, societally conforming lives are. So stay tuned, check out my channel for my other videos, and subscribe. If you're just watching this video for the first, as the first video of mine that you're watching, my channel is going to cover a variety of topics from the environment to anarchist news to quote-unquote conspiracy theories. I'm not like a conspiracy buff. I don't do this for fun. I don't think everything is a conspiracy, but there are real provable conspiracies such as 9/11. Go to ae911truth.org. Yeah, so if you're anti-establishment minded, anarchist minded, conspiracy theorist minded, anti-ecological destruction, please stay tuned to my channel. And my previous channel was TechJunkie92. For those of you that saw me there, I closed that channel. I explained why in my first video on this channel. And I'm going to be continuing with this channel. If I disappear for a while, it's because I got fed up with the detrimental effects that technology was having on my life. But for now, I'm here. I'm going to be making anti-establishment videos, so please stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for listening.